Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So we have some Sark Week updates. Really excited to talk about a lot of things. I want to give some shout outs as well to some people moving on, to some people moving on to a different level, things of that sort. So we're going to talk about it all. But before I get to that, make sure you hit that like button. I appreciate everyone that's continued to support us, everyone that came out to watch our college football roundtable that we did on Tuesday night. That was a lot of fun, and everyone that has just kept up with us on social media. If you're not following us on Twitter, on Instagram, we are going to have more content pushing out there curated for those platforms. Twitter is just a great way if you want to converse with us and have some back and forth, especially real time. Make sure you're following on all platforms. The links are in the description below. Now, in terms of folks moving on, I'll start with some guys that have entered the transfer portal as of this week. I know we cover them as they come along, but with the portal being what it is, there's going to be updates always, but especially going into the spring. First guy I want to talk about is Keontae Ingram, who is deciding to move on and pick another school and has entered the transfer portal. Obviously, the emergence of Bijan Robinson, who, by the way, was named a ESPN All-American for the true freshman. So he actually was named that over Deuce Vaughn with his performances over Kansas State and Colorado in the bowl game. So shout out to Bijan there. But the emergence of Bijan Robinson and what they have in Roschon Johnson as well, Jonathan Brooks coming in. Not that Keontae Ingram wouldn't have competed for carries, especially behind Bijan with Roschon and Jonathan and other guys, but I think for where he's at in his football career and what he's trying to achieve, this is a good move for this young man to get off to a fresh start. So I think it's a good call by Keontae and his family, and I wish him nothing but the best of luck. Anybody that's followed this channel knows how big of a fan I am of Keontae Ingram. That has not changed. I understand this season was not the season this brother wanted to have. The TCU fumble, very, very unfortunate. And, the confidence and the mental thing followed up the next week against OU. We love to highlight with a lot of these brothers, because I've seen it with Blake Gideon too, when coming back here. Of course, the go-to play is the worst play of his life, the drop pick against Texas Tech in 2008. We love to just go straight to those bad moments because they were bad moments for us as fans. But those are like, however we feel, they're 10 times worse for those guys. And these are good people. Keontae is a great kid and great student. And his brother is on this team, and we're very excited for his brother after he had 73-yard touchdown, Cavante Dixon in the Alamo Bowl. Like, this Texas family, and some of the hate and just negativity towards this brother that he's gotten throughout his career, really since the LSU game, has been unwarranted. This is a guy that's led our team in touchdowns back in 2019 in terms of rushing and receiving. Career-wise, averaged over 5 yards a touch and averaged pretty much 6 yards a carry in 2019, 800 yards rushing, 1,800 yards overall. Just the setback to me wasn't necessarily those 2 or 3 bad moments, because people say he has a fumble problem, but his 2 career fumbles were OU and Kansas and I'm sorry, in TCU. So over 3 years, those were the only 2 fumbles he had here. Obviously wasn't a perfect football player, but when we highlight those negatives, I don't ever see anybody talk about all the good that he did here. The monster game he had against Oklahoma State, the monster game he had against Kansas State last year, the monster game he had against Utah in the Alamo Bowl where he hurdles a guy and he's catching touchdowns all over the place. Like, he gave a lot to this program. He gave a lot in the classroom. Like I said, very good student. And I wish him nothing but the best. I understand if you're not a fan, but of the young man or all that type of stuff. But when you're going and tagging people on Twitter and bringing those things up and being negative towards the kids, like, that's what I call low-level fans and trolls. You're not really a real Texas fan to me. If you don't have anything to say, don't say anything at all. If not, wish the young man good luck and let's move forward. The other young man that hit the portal was Jalen Green. So another big one, that guy that started a lot of games for us over the last couple of years. This Alamo Bowl played safety. And I'm not really sure the reasoning there, so to speak, other than uncertainty, especially with the defensive staff. Jay Valai moving on. Jalen Green, since he's been here, he came in the 2018 class, so he would be moving on to his third defense, whatever defense we're going to be running, and whoever's hired, position coaches, things of that sort. So he may just be looking for a fresh start at this point with a lot of the instability that he's endured since being at Texas. Top of that, the corner spots, Deshaun Jameson, Josh Thompson. I don't know if he wanted to continue playing outside or if he wanted to move over to safety, but we got guys all over the place that are kind of moving up. And I don't know what exactly that was there, but wherever Jalen Green ends up, best of luck to him. Still a very, very talented player, great size, very good instincts, had a really nice interception this year. So all these guys, just wishing the best of luck. And we move forward. Guys like Keaton Crawford, Marquise Caldwell, some of the freshmen, Jameer Johnson, and even guys like, some of the other folks we got, even out of, if the other brother Ibrahim gets qualified. So guys that will be around to hopefully help us in the secondary and provide some of that depth and development there after the drop off from Josh Thompson and Deshaun Jameson on the outside. So see what happens there. Maybe Anthony Cook moves outside again. I never, that's another person who they could, where he ends up with this new staff on the defensive side. I'll get to some of the staff, but right now in the portal, in terms of the people that are there and we don't know where they're necessarily ending up, Keontae Ingram, Jalen Green, Delio Dele is in there still that we talked about. Adey is in there that we talked about the last time. Byron Bonds went to Utah State. Congrats to him. Daniel Carson to Western Illinois. So guys just trying to find the right situation for them and to get some snaps in and play football. So best of luck to all those guys. And if Rob Cummins decides to play ball again, I see he's in the transfer portal. So looks like he may have unretired. I'm not really sure what the situation is there with him. But if he decides to keep playing football, best of luck to that young man as well. Now to the coaches. Chris Ash, Charlie Strong joining the Jacksonville Jaguars with Urban Meyer as he takes over. Most likely will draft Trevor Lawrence with the first overall pick, and they start a whole new regime trying to build up the late 2000s Florida Gators vibe. A lot of coaches he's assembling there. And Chris Ash, I that was a guy I wanted to stay here at Texas, even with the new hires. But with him moving on to the NFL, embracing that challenge and joining Urban Meyer, who he's had success with in the past, best luck to him. Charlie Strong, shout out to him. Just got a national championship analyst, Alabama. Awesome for him. I love Charlie. He's going to be the assistant head coach and linebackers coach over in Jacksonville. So Charlie Strong, keep getting them checks. Love you, brother. So a lot of good vibes out there. I just want to, all these former Longhorn folks and just throwing out good vibes. Now for the people that are coming on board, because there's some exciting things during Sark Week. Jeff Banks, Kyle Flood, the big names that have their Twitter bios, their Twitter bio official now. I don't know if y'all have seen this, but their locations, Austin, Texas. Their titles are offensive line coach, and Jeff Banks is a special teams coordinator and tight ends coach, and he's actually got $1 million salary as a special teams coordinator. But anybody that knows the elite recruiters and Jeff Banks, he's at the top of the list. And as I said on Twitter the other day, Sark is putting together a staff, at least on the offensive side right now. Defense still remains to be seen, in my opinion. On the offensive side right now, a staff of hunters, because these people can recruit at a very, very high level. You saw what Jeff Banks did at the University of Alabama the last 3 years with Nick Saban. Tremendous job, tremendous reputation in the state of Texas. The things that have been said about this man, even before, when people were like, wow, if Texas could potentially get Jeff Banks. And I was still focused on the offensive line coach. I'll get to Kyle Flood in a sec. But having somebody there with those strong Texas ties where Sark isn't really familiar with this landscape yet. We saw he's meeting, he's been meeting with the Texas High School Coaches Association this week and still really learning the lay of the land. When you get people on the staff like Jeff Banks, that's a big help, right? And then retaining a Stan Drayton and they decided to retain Andre Coleman, who have been recruiting the DFW area and regionally have been developing ties. So very, very good signs and of what they're putting together. Now, I've been skeptical of Andre Coleman. I didn't think he was going to be retained. If you go back and watch our immediate live chat discussion, and I've seen a lot of scuttlebutt this week about the performance of the wide receivers. That was something I was critical of out of last season and what led to my skepticism. But from hearing folks in terms of the relationships that Andre Coleman has in the building and some of that stuff that they struggled with was more of a function of the offense and maybe Tom Herman playing favorites. You know how I felt about the rotations at wide receiver. And I know how many people felt about the rotations at running back. So those things with Sark, offense his baby, he's the play caller. If it's just more relationships, technique, and making sure that guys are feeling confident when they're out there and they know what they're doing, but Sark is the one dictating and still the puppeteer, I'm cool with it. Andre Coleman, the Whitfield kid committed this week, so he got a win right off the bat just with the vote of confidence there. So shout out to him. Kyle Flood, offensive, that was such a big one. I believe he'll carry the offensive coordinator title as well, so that'll come with a nice pay bump. But Kyle Flood, just having him on board, former Rutgers head coach, he did a tremendous job at the University of Alabama, obviously recruiting the Brockemeyer twins. The other brother that was a 5-star, I believe out of Florida that they got, Florida or Georgia, but somebody who had regional pull all over the place. And I know he wasn't at Alabama for a long time, but while he was there, they were fantastic. Those of you who watched our national championship recap with Tran, we talked about how the Alabama offensive line looked in that game, how they looked all year, how they, had to navigate without Dickerson there after he went down in the SEC championship game and just getting those guys coached up and getting people to play at their level of dominant. Like Evan Neal looked every bit as good as Evan Neal's supposed to look. And I know they're all coaching 5-star amazing talent, and Nick Saban's got the perfect bubble atmosphere there for these coaches to come in and thrive. I am hoping the tribal knowledge that all of them got together and that alignment they naturally have with Banks and Flood. Stan Drayton can coach anywhere. AJ Milway is coming in, and Sark. That's a lot of continuity that they have and credibility because they're all going to come in with rings on their finger. Not to mention Drayton already has a ring on his finger. So that's a lot of credibility they'll have in the offensive meeting rooms and when they go in to recruit kids. That is huge. So what Flood is able to do here with these guys, when I'm looking at people like Jake Majors and Christian Jones and Junior Angulau and Andre Carrick, there's a lot to work with here, especially the way they finished the season. They finished the season on a very, very high note. And I think that's something to be said. And I think we have to keep that in mind with how we manage our expectations with next season in particular, but just even going deeper into position groups and what we expect for a reasonable outcome. Like, they're not coming in to necessarily rebuild. We're coming into like, hey, ground floor is y'all ran the ball like crazy the last couple games. And these were some of the lineups you had in here. If I'm Kyle Flood, I'm looking to build off of that. Okay, let's look at the film and like, what were these kids doing great? And I know he's going to do all those things, and on top of improved technique, they're young, so their bodies will naturally get bigger and whatnot. And we'll also see how the kids look with the new strength and conditioning coach. I mean, I know there was a lot of concern, at least on my end, about some of the size and how big some people were getting in our program. I know we were trying to go for more of a strength power look. We'll see how they manage people's bodies this spring and in the off season. I'm really, really curious to take a look at that. But there's a lot for Coach Flood right off the bat, recruiting aside, and there's some studs in the 2022 class that he'll be able to pursue. But recruiting aside, there's Tyler Johnson just got to start a bowl game. Like there's a lot there to work with and develop. And that's the key word for all of these people is development. So I'm happy to get, we got the $1 million special teams coordinator. We got the all-star recruiters looking to come in and really lock down some borders here in Texas. And I'm excited about it. And you're doing a good job. The Texas A&M people that I trust, not everybody, they've had nothing but good things to say about Jeff Banks. They've had great things to say about even Terry Joseph, who's on the defensive side, who I believe is coming in. So right now, I think we have 8 people for the staff. If you're looking at Flood, Banks, Drayton, Coleman, Milwee, Bo Davis, Blake Gideon, Terry Joseph. So that's 8. So we'll see. We got to see who's the defensive coordinator, if that person's going to be coaching linebackers, if they have another assistant on offense, or if they even it out on defense. But that's kind of where I'm leaving off the video, right? Because the defensive coordinator thing, this is where I'm a little frustrated. I understand the whole Jeremy Pruitt situation at Tennessee and the domino effect or the ricochet, however you want to say, that it's creating with what Nick Saban wants to do with Pete Golding, and if he's bringing back Pruitt, and if he doesn't, then we might get Golding and they get Pruitt. And then you have other people like Dan Lanning. Is that a real player? Is he just trying to get a raise from Georgia? We have Zach Arnett over here from Mississippi State. So like there's all these names floating. And then in every week it seems like there's or every other day there seems like another name for defensive coordinator. And this is a critical hire, considering how much Sark's involvement is on the offensive side. And and the reason why I'm concerned is because we've already made some hires on the defense side. Now, Bo Davis is another one, skins on the wall. We know what he did when he was here at Texas. We know what he did when he went to Bama, and he's also now has NFL pedigree. So there's not much concern there. Terry Joseph comes over from Notre Dame, and then Blake Gideon's kind of the young guy from Ole Miss who's developing and may still help out with special teams. I don't know what role or capacity, because Joseph and Gideon are both DB coaches. But when you've almost filled out the defensive staff, but you don't have a coordinator, that could also be an issue of alignment. I don't know. Is Coleman Hutzler still around? Like, what's up with him? Is Oscar Giles out? Like, I know Jay Valai said his goodbyes. I know Mark Hagan said his goodbyes. So I'm just kind of wondering, do any of those guys follow Chris Ash and Charlie Strong and Urban Meyer to Jacksonville? I thought this was going to be wrapped up this week, and that's why I'm like, I don't want to say impatient, because I understand the holding pattern that they're in, and I understand that Sark and the Texas admin, they understand there's some buyouts involved with some of these guys. I believe Arnett and Lanning have a buyout, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong on that, y'all can correct me in the comments. So there's logistics to that as well. But we've already shown with the Banks contract that we are no longer we're hitting that bag. All right. So there's no longer an expense to be spared in regards to putting this staff together. And those are the type of things that it's like, all right, do we want to win, or do we want to, keep trying to run a nice, lucrative business? But if we win, great. Like, are we trying to win at all costs? And so the defensive thing, hopefully that's wrapped up next week for recruiting purposes and just locking down continuity. When I say recruiting purposes, I'm also talking about the current roster, right? Like, I do think the guys on defense, especially the guys that probably feel some type of way right now on defense, honestly, considering the season that they had and finishing up OU on, really, or Baylor on, however you want to put it. Like, who's coaching us? So I understand, like, they're the ones that got to get sold first, and then they got to lock that up. So all the excitement going on. Y'all know I'm going to keep it real. I am concerned about the defensive stuff until it gets locked up, hopefully sooner rather than later, and they get all those things and logistics certified. Last thing I want to say is this. All the Alabama fans that have come on and commented, been objective, I appreciate you guys. For the people that have come on from Alabama that are really salty about this and saying Steve Sarkisian is wrong for doing what he's doing in terms of poaching the Alabama staff and anything of those sort, please sit down and have a Coke and a smile and you know what? Because y'all been winning for years. Y'all just won again. Y'all still got Nick Saban. Let us have this. Okay? Let us have this. Please have a seat. I'm tired of the imagine crying like that right after you just won a national championship. I understand it's not ideal to be losing assistants left and right like this. I get it. But I was also the one that said there's a difference between Austin and Tuscaloosa, and y'all laughed at me when I said that months ago, and I haven't forgotten about it. That's why I'm bringing it up right now. So some of y'all Alabama fans, I appreciate the ones that have been amicable and insightful with some of the information they've given, but the rest of you guys need to chill out. Anyway, I've said my piece. Hopefully, I'm coming on in the next few days to make a defensive coordinator video, and we wrap up the whole staff. But I'm excited about everything that's going on, as you guys should be too. And then that's when we start getting into what are our expectations. Guys, hit that like button. I appreciate everyone that has been rocking with the content from jump. We're on our way to 10,000. We're building momentum. Love you guys. Horns always up.